Disclaimer, warnings, trigger warnings. We're going to talk about addiction, sexual assault, teen sexualization, sobriety, nudity, suicide, abusive relationships, self-harm, mental disorders, sexual health, pedophilia. As you've seen in the title, I'm going to mention a little bit about Euphoria and like this brand hype new show. Well, it's not new, but whatever. Just a reminder that if you're struggling, I always have a crisis link services in like my description box in the middle of it. If you need any resource, that's the way to go. It is specifically for Canada, but you can find similar resources for the US as well. So it's there if you need it. If this is too much, stop watching. It's supposed to be an entertaining video, so don't push your boundaries, don't push your limits just because you want to watch the video. That's actually the point. Perfect transition. Oh my god, am I a YouTuber? I'm not sure what the title of the video is yet. I just know that my first instinct was to be like, Euphoria is triggering. It treats about certain topics in certain ways that can be potentially triggering to some people. There will be zero spoilers. I'm going to talk about other shows as well. There's not going to be a single spoiler. I guess we're just like going straight into it. It bugs me so much that when a show is really hype, especially thanks to like social media, which is not always bad, not always good, people make you feel some type of way for not watching it. Just because something is hype doesn't mean that you have to watch it. You can like the aesthetics without having to spend an hour every week being like in front of your screen being like, oh my god, I gotta watch this new episode, for Euphoria specifically. If you are a die-hard fan of the show, which there's apparently a lot of you, please watch the whole video before getting defensive. This is just my opinion. Those are not facts. I'm not saying it's a bad show. I watched the show. Finale is next week. I cannot wait to see what happens. For context, Euphoria came out in 2019 on HBO. Right now we're on season 2, and as I said, like the finale episode is coming out next week, next Sunday. It's basically a show about teenagers navigating through life with all the issues stated above, and basically having a typical, we're gonna talk about that, a typical life going through high school. They're supposed to be 16 for most of them, if I'm not mistaken. We're following this girl called Rue, which is played by Zendaya. One thing though that's interesting is that she is not the main character. I mean, at least I don't think so. I feel like the show would still be good without Rue. What do you think? Like, I'm not saying it would be as good because she plays obviously a big part of it because she's a recovering drug addict, and her story makes up a lot of the connections in between the other characters. I don't think she's the main character, which is a good thing in my opinion. Anyways, like, it's set in high school, it's a drama show, lots happen, it's very dramatic. The first thing that I want to state, which again, I'm just giving my opinion, I'm open for debate. The director, Sam, is a 35-year-old white man who is writing about a 16-year-old biracial girl, or Rue specifically. But I mean, the cast, I wouldn't say it's like super diverse, but it depends on your standards. What I will say though, because I've been seeing a lot of critique about him and how basically there's a character in the show that seems to have more nude scenes than others. A girl, we see a lot of her breasts. If you watch the show, you know who I'm talking about. I just want to state that Sam, I saw like a panel interview where he was saying that he is also a recovering drug addict. He's been clean since he was 19 and now he's 35. He basically wrote Rue as himself, even though obviously there's still a lot of fiction, right? Like, it's a drama show. He also has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which the character Rue, on top of suffering from addiction, she also suffers from, I think, bipolar disorder, anxiety, severe depression. There's lots going on in her brain. And then there's like the whole debate of, oh, can you really write a show about something that you don't know, or can you just use your imagination? Like, how does that work out? I don't have the answer to that yet. I actually first watched the show in 2022 because I could not avoid the memes. I could not avoid all the TikToks, all the sounds, all the jokes that were just like flying over my head. I kind of got a sense of what the show was, specifically through Twitter. I'd say TikTok, I guess it's more about sounds and like using that sound in other ways, comedic ways, whereas Twitter, you're like actually having some debates, and I see a lot of fan theories about, you know, the plot twists. I didn't like that all the jokes were flying over my head. I didn't like that I felt like I was missing out, you know, like that FOMO, fear of missing out. I had that for a show. It actually kind of all worked out because I randomly stumbled into to a trigger list of all the episodes, like all the potentially triggering events in season 1, and I'm so glad I did, because there were so many scenes, particularly the sexual assaults ones, where it was like too much for me. You're probably gonna be like,
well, it doesn't just happen in Euphoria.
I know. So let's talk about other shows. The biggest example that I can think of would be 13 Reasons Why, in the sense that it was also such a hype show for a little. Everybody was talking about it. Even now, the joke like, oh, this would be my 13th reason. I mean, I don't know if we're on the same side of TikTok, probably not. To me, that shows the impact of what people will just call like, oh, it's just a teen TV show. It's a teen drama show. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Euphoria has any resources for anyone struggling, whether it's with addiction, sexual abuse, mental illness, anything like that. I don't think they have that. Now for 13 Reasons Why, now there's a warning between each episode, or at least there's like a link to get some resources in the US. But the very first time that it aired, aka when I watched it. So 13 Reasons Why, if you don't know, it's a show about this woman called Hannah Baker. She was bullied, she was abused, she was just not having a good time. She reached out for help, no one helped her. She decided to kill herself, and she left 13 tapes. Basically, each episode was a tape, right, explaining, oh, this person did this to me, this person did this to me. And basically, it was literally her 13 reasons as to why she decided to kill herself. Very heavy, but again, that's what a drama is, right? It's not supposed to be fun. I fully respect that. But Netflix, at first, they decided to air the first season. I can't remember which episode we see the suicide scene, probably like middle of the season, because they got so much backlash because it was too much. This scene has been removed from the Netflix like show in itself. Is just being cut, and now you have resources, and I don't remember where, but you had actors being like, hey, I'm XYZ, I play this role. If you're struggling, this is where you can get help, this is where you can get resources, stuff like that. But they only did that after the fact that like half, I might be exaggerating, that half of the population saw it, mostly teens. I think that's okay. That might be my biggest issue with drama shows. If they're teen shows, I understand that it's set in high school, meaning that everybody's supposed to be like 14, 16. I get that, it makes sense. Teens watching teens. I'm just wondering, if you want this to be a teen show, why are you using so much adult mature content? I saw a lot of critics that were like, oh, it wasn't like that in my high school, it wasn't like that, we didn't do that, no one was doing drugs, no one was doing alcohol, no one was being abused. And it's like, first of all, you never know what someone's going through, so you're 100% wrong. And second, the show is not saying that everyone does drugs, or that everyone is sexually abused or sexually assaulted, or like, that's not what the show is saying. They're portraying the instances of the people where like that happens to them. If you want to attract teens, why would you want to make something so harsh and so heavy? Like, I don't know about you, but being a teenager was like the hardest period of my life. That's where I was still looking for myself. That's where I did not enjoy school at all. Your brain is biologically still not developed. So basically, that's why even as an adult that can still happen to you, but as a teenager I felt that even more, where you get a negative feeling and it doesn't feel temporary, and you start to have really dark thoughts. And that's when it's like, oh my gosh, is this ever gonna stop? Maybe it's just my personal preference, maybe it has to do with my experience. I wouldn't say it's glamorizing it, like the idea of suicide and doing drugs and stuff, but it's definitely prettier than it really is. Obviously, Euphoria is known for like the purple, the glitter, which, by the way, like those makeup looks, y'all have to stop. It's not new. Glitter wasn't invented just on Euphoria. Rhinestones existed before 2019. So please, let's just cut it. Cut it. Again, personal preference and opinion, not a fact. I started asking myself the question of, why do I want to watch it? Is it because I feel pressured to? Is it because I want to be on trend with like the jokes? Is it because I want to follow the hype? Is it because it's just aesthetically pleasing? Is it because I want to see what Zendaya does? Because who doesn't? I had to like watch the episodes beforehand by myself so that I could see if like the list was missing any triggers, so that when I watched with like my support system, I was like okay. I don't think watching it by myself first was a good idea. We learn and we live. Cast had an intimacy director on set. Again, I got that information from like the panel, which brings me the question again of why did they not put any resources link? Correct me if I'm wrong. I watch Euphoria on Crave, so maybe that's why I'm not getting any like resource or links to or anything like that, but I did not see a single resource. I was like, hey, this is a lot. If you're not ready for it, this is how we can help. I don't know. So yeah, I talk about 13 Reasons Why, but there was also Skins. Although it was not as popular, it was definitely exactly the same type of like drugs, sex, high school, how to navigate that period of your life, how to navigate through like your first relationship, your first sexual encounter, everything that basically, I understand why it's so attractive to watch because everybody's curious, because it's so taboo. It's taboo, no one talks about it, everyone's curious about it. We're gonna watch shows that talk about that. Oh, but shows aren't real life. Yeah, but no one ever said they were. As you can probably feel, I have a lot of internal dialogue going on at the moment. One thing that bugs me also is that I don't really like the way adults are portrayed in the show. Obviously, not all adults are good people and helpers and even want to help. I acknowledge that. But for 13 Reasons Why, for example, there's a point where Hannah decides to reach out for help. And all the adults that she reached out to did not take her seriously, did not believe her, did not acknowledge her. Again, obviously not every adult will help you, but I just don't like that message that's conveyed. That's like, no one can help you, you're all alone, no one believes you. Maybe that's the only area of my life where I'm actually optimistic, where I'm confident that there's always someone who cares about you. Maybe I'm just lying to myself. I guess I will never know. I refuse to believe that is my lesson. It's like my takeaway. Even on Euphoria, the adults, they have their own flaws. 100%. I think we can agree. If you watch the show, you know who I'm talking about. I just think there's a good way to do it. The only example I can think of, actually I have two examples. First one is Sex Education, which for me, in my opinion, was a great show. Actually learned something. Of course, it's not a drama. It's a comedy with some drama moments. The way they treated even just nudity. Okay, I saw this video from another YouTuber. Her name is Kennie. Her video is going to be linked in the description. She talked about this analogy of, hey, in real life, you know that a teenager, 16-year-old person, when they go in the shower, they are most likely gonna be naked. Usually people shower naked. Can we agree? In Euphoria, even though they're played by an adult, they have a tendency to show the minor naked in the shower. And it's like, I'm just curious about what that really brings. I wouldn't say that's necessarily triggering, but again, to each their own triggers. All that extreme nudity, the fact that it's an ongoing joke that so far out of 15 episodes released, there's only been one without a penis in it. Again, that whole taboo thing, the less you talk about something, the more you're gonna be curious, the more you're gonna do research and find ways to learn about it, no matter what it takes. Is that really necessary? I'm having a really hard time putting the boundaries between art, between porn, and between like nudity that helps to convey emotions or help to, you know, kind of like push forward the storyline or make me understand a character a bit more, right? It's that stuff like that. I don't think there's a single scene, a single nude scene where I was like, oh, I'm so glad I saw that because that explains XYZ. I was just like, another penis? Oh no. Why? What is it? For Sex Education, people were having sex, but I didn't have that feeling of like, oh, why did I like see that? Again, not the same setting. Sex Education, if I remember correctly, there's not really a mention of addiction or drugs at any point. Maybe like Viagra, if you consider that a drug. I don't know if it is. On another personal preference, there's this show called Bojack Horseman, which is I forgot the right word. It's not a cartoon, but it's like drawings that talk. You have voice actors that deals with same mental illness, addiction, sexual assault, and it was so well done. Obviously the nudity here is different because even if there was nudity, it's like it's a drawing, right? It's an animation. It's not real people acting there for a role or something like that. The dialogues were a bit better in my opinion, and maybe it's because it wasn't as hyped as Euphoria. I can see why it would be nice to see the struggles you've experienced represented on TV, whether that's with like mental illness or sexual assault. It's always nice to know that you're not alone going through whatever it is you're going through. And Kennie also touched on that on her video, like how far do you want your show to be realistic? Is that why you watch a show? And then I go back to my whole argument of like, why are you even watching the show? Is it to take your mind off work? Is it because you want a good cry? Is it because you want to feel some adrenaline because you're scared for XYZ character? At the end of the day, it's a personal decision. To me, there was just a lot of ways they could have made that a bit more, I guess, I'm gonna say a bit less triggering, but I can already see the comments being like, well, if you're triggered, then don't watch it. Yes, thank you for that, Captain Obvious. I'm just saying I think there are ethical ways almost of doing things and portraying addiction, suicidal thoughts, all of those very, very serious and heavy topics. I mean, the season's not over yet, right? And it's been renewed for season 3. So maybe they'll change their ways of like thinking. I think even from season 1 to season 2, I saw like a little bit of a change. That just really made me think about boundaries between like art, porn, and a show. How realistic does it have to be? How necessary is representation? How do you want that representation to be represented, to be portrayed on screen? I would honestly love to have your thoughts on this because I feel like I'm going so far. I just thought it was really important because Euphoria is so... Every Sunday, I don't go on Twitter because otherwise I'm gonna get spoiled. And I don't like getting spoiled. Again, my bubble, the people that I follow, my circle, I feel like everybody's watching Euphoria. So that's why I thought it was really important to reflect on it and to be like, okay, how do I want to watch this? Do I want to watch this? Anyways, so yes, I will keep watching the show. I've come too far to stop now, but I definitely needed like some breaks in between some scenes or different episodes. I made the mistakes of binging Skins. I think there was like 6 seasons. Oh my god, that was stupid. So if you are also a sponge, emotions wise and just vibes and feelings, do not binge watch Euphoria. Don't make the same mistake as I did. I decided to try to channel my inner Rue today. I don't know if you saw the resemblance. I wish I looked like Zendaya. Before you go, remember to empty your email boxes because that pollution is not cute. Please don't get defensive. I am willing to talk about it. I'm willing to get corrected if I said something wrong or inaccurate. Let me know if I missed any important piece of information. I'd love to know what you think about the show overall. Do you just like it for like its purple colors and its glitter, or are you here because of the message that it conveys? And if so, what even is that message? Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.